Something the seismology community has been quietly dreading for years just happened. At 7:37 in the morning on the 8th of June, 2026, southern Mindanao ruptured. A moment magnitude 8.2 earthquake split open one of the most geologically pressurized fault systems on Earth. And the way it happened, the depth, the location, the specific morning timing, tells us things about the Philippine fault system that every person living near a coastline anywhere on the Pacific needs to understand right now. Sources for everything in this video are in the description. USGS, 5ALS, and peer-reviewed seismological data published in the last 3 years. And before we go further, if you want to understand what is actually happening inside the Earth, not just the headline, subscribe to this channel. That is exactly what we do here. Link is right below. The Philippines does not sit on one tectonic boundary. It sits on several, all converging at the same time. The Philippine sea plate moves roughly 90 millimeters, 3.5 inches, to the west-northwest every year. That sounds almost nothing. Multiply it by 40 million years and you have built every major mountain range in Southeast Asia. To the west, this plate dives beneath the Eurasian plate along the Manila Trench, a scar in the ocean floor that drops to nearly 5,000 meters, 16,400 feet in places. To the east of Mindanao, the Philippine Trench and the Cotabato Trench create a geological vise. The island is being compressed from multiple directions at the same time. Running through the middle of all of this is the Philippine Fault, a left lateral strike-slip structure stretching roughly 1,200 kilometers, 746 miles, through the archipelago. Strike-slip means the two sides of the fault move horizontally past each other, like two hands sliding in opposite directions. The San Andreas Fault in California works the same way, just mirrored. What makes the Philippine Fault different is how it interacts with both subduction zones flanking the archipelago simultaneously. It is not just cutting through the island chain. It is negotiating the rotational strain that builds up when a single plate is being consumed from two different sides at once. That negotiation failed this morning. The hypocenter, the actual point underground where the rock first fractured, sits at approximately 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles depth. That is shallow, alarmingly shallow for an 8+ event in this region. For reference, the 2004 Sumatra earthquake that triggered the Indian Ocean disaster ruptured at 30 kilometers, 18.6 miles. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake that hit northeastern Japan broke at 29 kilometers, 18 miles. Both produced catastrophic tsunamis. Both were nearly 3 times deeper than what ruptured under Mindanao this morning. Depth determines how efficiently the energy travels to the surface and into the water above. Think of it this way. Drop a stone into deep water from 1 meter below the surface. The ripple on top is small, dispersed, spread out by the water column above it. Now hold that stone just 2 centimeters below the surface and release it. The displacement is immediate and enormous. That is the physics of today's earthquake. 10 kilometers of rock between the rupture and the seafloor. Almost no buffer. The energy transferred into the water column directly, efficiently, and with almost nothing absorbing it on the way up. A tsunami warning was issued within minutes. That is not panic. That is seismology doing its job. Now I need to explain what a seismic gap is, because this is the part of the story that the news coverage will miss, and it is the most important context for understanding what happened today. A seismic gap is a section of a fault that has not ruptured in a long time. Decades, sometimes centuries. The plates on either side are still moving, the stress is still accumulating, but no earthquakes are releasing it. The fault is locked, held together by friction while the tectonic forces loading it never stop. Seismic gaps are not quiet zones. They are charged zones. They are a geological spring compressed to maximum tension, held in place by nothing but friction. In 2019, a team of geophysicists using GP's ground deformation data published an analysis of the Philippine Fault in Mindanao. Their results showed that specific segments in the southern part of the fault were accumulating strain at rates consistent with eventual large magnitude failure. The phrase they used was late in the interseismic cycle. In plain language, this segment had been loading for a long time. The spring was near maximum compression. What ruptured this morning may have been exactly that segment. And here is what seismologists are analyzing right now in real time as this video reaches you. Coulomb stress transfer. When a fault segment ruptures, it does not just release its own accumulated stress, it redistributes pressure across the surrounding fault system. The failed segment acts like a pressure valve. It relieves itself, but it pushes the load onto adjacent sections. Those sections which were already loaded receive an additional stress increment on top of what they were already holding. This is how large earthquakes trigger aftershocks, and sometimes how they trigger separate large earthquakes on nearby faults. Following a moment magnitude 8.2 rupture, seismological models consistently show elevated probability of magnitude 6 and above aftershocks lasting weeks. The probability of a 7 or higher event in the first month following a rupture of this size is not negligible. It is statistically significant. 5-Volks is running full aftershock sequence monitoring, recalculating fault stress models in real time, and assessing which adjacent segments moved closer to their own threshold because of what happened this morning. Davao City, a metropolitan area of approximately 1.8 million people, reported shaking equivalent to a magnitude 6.7 at 7:38 in the morning, 1 minute after the main shock. Nearly 2 million people at breakfast time on a Monday. The timing and the secondary magnitude tell us something important. The rupture propagated directionally, radiating its most intense energy toward the city. That pattern is consistent with a fault rupture moving northwest from the hypocenter, which aligns with the orientation of the fault segment that geophysicists had flagged as a seismic gap. The last major event in this region was the Moro Gulf earthquake of 1976. Moment magnitude, 7.9. It generated a tsunami that struck the coastlines of Mindanao and Sulu and became one of the most devastating natural events in Philippine history. Entire coastal communities were swept away. That event shaped Philippine disaster policy for a generation. Today's earthquake released roughly 4 times the energy of the 1976 rupture. The moment magnitude scale is logarithmic. Each whole number increase represents approximately 32 times more energy. From 7.9 to 8.2 is not a small step. It is a geological leap. The tsunami generated by this morning's event will behave the way shallow rupture tsunamis always behave. Invisible in the open ocean, traveling at 800 to 900 kilometers per hour, 500 to 560 miles per hour, and compressing dramatically as it enters shallow coastal waters. A wave that measures half a meter, 1.6 feet, in the open Pacific can arrive at a shoreline as a wall of water 3 to 5 meters, 9.8 to 16.4 feet high. The geography of Mindanao's southern coastline, particularly the shallow bays and inlets around General Santos City and Sarangani Province, creates exactly the conditions where tsunamis compress and amplify most violently. Here is what the science tells us beyond the immediate emergency. Every time a major fault ruptures, it changes the stress state of the surrounding crust. The Philippine fault does not exist in isolation. It connects to a web of structures, the Cotabato fault, the Makilala-Malungan fault, the segments of the trench systems flanking the archipelago. Each of those structures has its own loading history, its own interseismic cycle, its own position on the spectrum between early loading and imminent failure. When seismologists map Coulomb stress changes following this morning's rupture, they will identify which of those structures received additional stress, and that map will update every fault hazard assessment in the southern Philippines. This is not speculative. This is how plate tectonics works. The earth moves, the plates move, the stress builds, the faults fail, and when one fails, it changes the odds for every connected structure around it. So here's the question I need you to answer in the comments, because I read every single one. If seismologists had already identified this fault segment as a seismic gap, a locked charged zone, years before this morning, what does that tell you about every other locked segment that has already been mapped and flagged on active fault systems around the world? Because there are dozens of them, and the science is unambiguous about what locked faults eventually do. Not if, when. If you want to understand how the Ring of Fire connects Mindanao's fault system to the subduction zones beneath South America, Japan, and the Pacific Northwest, and what today's rupture changes about the risk picture for all of them, the next video is right there. The research on this will surprise you. I'll see you in it.